the subject that we would like to talk over with you is what is the nature of a religious life. But we would like to approach this question in a more concrete form, like this, that a paradoxical situation has arisen during...
May I interrupt, sir? They can't hear. I can't hear. Either.
You'll have to talk louder.
Much louder.
The subject that we would like to talk over is what is the nature of the religious life. But we would like to make it more concrete by starting with a particular problem. A paradoxical situation has developed during the last 200 years, recently during the last 50 years more so, that there has been an explosion of knowledge, and this explosion of knowledge has led to specialization, with the result that the wholeness of life is lost in the multiplicity of information. And when we make efforts at correcting this, it is called so-called interdisciplinary approach. The interdisciplinary approach is really trying to put the parts together, and the parts together can never make the whole, because the whole is quite... You can't see the parts in their right setting unless you have seen the whole. So really the problem has become more acute because every development in terms of knowledge seems to lead us further away from the religious life. So whether it could be possible to explore this problem.
If I may ask Achyutji, is the problem a perception which is total, or is in relationship to a religious life, or is it a problem? Are you suggesting that when there was not this plethora of knowledge, that man's capacity to see the whole was greater than it is today? Is it the extension of the frontiers of knowledge, the extension of the nature of knowledge, which has made the problem more difficult? Or is it the basic problem of man, his incapacity to see in a total sense, that the very nature of his seeing is fragmentary, whether there is vast knowledge or limited knowledge?
But there is also the modern view that with knowledge we have ascended in terms of living conditions, comfort, equality, which some people feel has made for greater sense of well-being and sometimes awareness. The ascent of man through knowledge. Whereas Achyuti is saying that knowledge has taken us away from a wholeness due to so much of specialization, and then you try to bring together all these specialists through interdisciplinary approach. There are two situations here.
But his very statement suggests that when knowledge was not so intricate and was not so complex, that man's capacity to see wholly was to that extent greater.
Can we assume that?
That's, I
You
mean, I
see,
thought that was part
What
of
I
it.
felt was, that there is an assumption in the proliferation of knowledge. The assumption is that if we could know more, we would come nearer to the heart of that wholeness. Now this assumption itself is totally illusory because we seem to move further away. The more we move towards the more in terms of knowledge, the further away we are from the center.
Now, when we say illusory, is it actually illusory to us?
I don't know if they hear it, if they hear.
When you say illusory, is it actually illusory or is it conceptually illusory?
I think that's a completely erroneous assumption you're making anyway. I don't think that anyone ever thought that technology or knowledge would bring greater happiness. I think that it's always been an operation that more knowledge and more technology has been a kind of an instant response, a kind of greed, the greed that curiosity is. You know, curiosity is a form of greed, in that we're always trying to get more, and there's a kind of inquisitiveness to curiosity. And I think that knowledge operates like from one thrill to the next thrill. If you've ever watched yourself, when you want to know something more, it's more and more and more and more and more. And the same thing with technology. I think it's a complete illusion. We don't think that technology will ever provide happiness. An engineer is infatuated with creating more and more facility of airplane design. We can get there faster. Nobody thinks because you can get from New Delhi to London in 2 hours in a few years, that's going to make you happier. And I think
But
that's it.
if I may say so, today in a country like this, in an underdeveloped country, where the question of the distribution of technology, making available technology to a vaster and vaster number of people, there would be an assumption in that you are going to bring happiness.
I don't agree. I think you're
There
going to
would be an
bring...
assumption in this country that you are leading toward happiness.
No, I think that you would have to evaluate what you mean by happiness there. That's what I think is the question. I don't think people
but
think
happiness is not the same thing as the seeing this wholeness.
Right.
Those two are totally
Maria,
different.
who was that chap who talked about knowledge as scent of man?
So that's different.
Bronowski.
In other words, you're not looking for happiness there. You're not looking for a deeper form of happiness. You're looking for a more facile way of living, more comfortable way of living.
But what is the basic question we are
I
asking?
started with the religious, what is a religious life? Because I want to keep our relationship to that and not get lost in any side issues. So I say that a religious life becomes difficult and not easy with the proliferation of knowledge. That is because the nature of that knowledge is fragmentary. And I am saying that fragmentary nature of knowledge is realized and we seek a way out through interdisciplinary studies. Ultimately, we find that interdisciplinary studies, which are putting the parts together, does not lead us to wholeness. That is to say, knowledge is not leading us towards the religious life, but away from the religious life.
In other words, you are saying, even in the pursuit of a so-called religious life, we are using the intellect to come apart. And would you say that the intellect itself is fragmented, and therefore we cannot arrive at this holistic or religious state?
I don't want to start with the assumption that the intellect is an inadequate tool for man, because
He's the
I
only
say it is the tool that I have, whatever powers of understanding I have been secured largely by the development of my intellect, And I say that whatever I have gained through the intellect seems to lead me away from that religious base, from that center. Perhaps you could throw some light on this.
This is a discussion, sir.
No, sir, I mean,
No,
I
I li-
believe that when I spell a question like this,
I like to point out, if I may, what do you mean by religious life and why we deny the influence of knowledge on religious life. Abramovsky, perhaps you have heard of him. On the BBC in England, I used to watch him on the television for many months. He was maintaining that only through knowledge there is the ascent of man. He went through from the Stone Age and on and on and on till modern age, and pointed out that man has evolved from savagery, if one can use that word with some hesitancy, to modern man. That is, the ascent of man is only possible through knowledge. And you are saying knowledge is detrimental or prevents or distorts a religious life.
and that a religious life is absolutely essential to restore sanity to human existence.
Yes,
Why
sir.
do we, after all, search for a religious life? In the context of modern society, we are not seeking for the religious life in terms that the church did or the people who went in search of Brahman did. We now find that human existence, the greater the resources made available to us, is becoming more insane, more self-destructive.
Sir, would you kindly define or explain what you mean by religion and what do you mean by a life which is religious life, the nature of a mind that is religious?
I would say, sir, very briefly, that a religious life is that perception which gives us a view of human well-being,
Human?
well-being, undistorted by contradictory, self-destructive tendencies.
But after all, you are using knowledge now. When you define a religious life, you are employing the intellect to communicate a kind of religious life.
Sir, we know what we want out of a religious life. We know that it is not some gloomy afterlife, we are not seeking for some kind of a theoretical moksha or metaphysical moksha. What we want is a capacity to see human well-being as an indivisible fact, and ourselves as agents of that human well-being, in no way in conflict with human well-being. After all, that is of the essence of...
You are saying, are you, sir, a religious life is concerned with human dignity,
human well-being.
human dignity, human well-being, human happiness, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir, the development of the human potential.
Yes, yes. Is that religious life?
Sir, that is what leads us to the religious.
No, I'm just inquiring, sir. If I may, when you use the word religious life, I wonder the depth of that word, the significance, the quality of a mind that says, that is inquiring into a religious life. You are saying, are you, sir, aren't you saying that knowledge, as we have explained, is a major factor which prevents a religious life? Let's hold on to that for a few minutes, if we may, and go into it. Does knowledge interfere with a religious life? Does a religious life, whatever that may mean for the we haven't gone into that yet, a religious life has no knowledge? No. Or let me finish what I want to say. Or having knowledge and not allowing that knowledge to interfere a holistic life.
Yes, yeah,
I don't,
the other thing, what you said second.
that having acquired great deal of information, knowledge of many, many centuries, and not allowing that knowledge to interfere or distort or color a life that is whole, holistic.
It loses its direction.
Huh?
It seems to have lost its direction. It loses its direction.
Who loses?
Without a religious life,
Knowledge,
knowledge seems to lose its direction.
yeah, no, yes, sir. So now we're more or less defined what you mean by knowledge. But I haven't quite understood what do you mean by a religious life?
So very simply,
No, not convey it to me, sir.
I would like to say that a religious life is a life in which one could feel that no harm would come to another through anything, one's knowledge, one's capacities. When one feels that it is too big to say that one would like to be a blessing, but I really mean that the fact that you are a part of humanity should be to you a feeling that humanity is fulfilling itself. It is getting something. It's a sense.
I find this very difficult to understand.
That you should not like to be harmful to another. That
No,
no harm should come to
just a
another.
minute, Archie. Hold on a minute.
I mean,
Are we discussing or having a dialogue theoretically
No,
or factually?
factually.
That is, we are discussing not what a religious life should be, but we are investigating, exploring into the nature of a religious life. Therefore, you can't presuppose that you mustn't hurt.
No, not like that, sir. What I feel is that how do we come to a religious life?
I would
No,
say,
sir. I say I come to the religious life because the greater my knowledge, the greater my mischief potential, the greater my capacity to do harm. And I ask myself that knowledge certainly is not going to give me that by which I will not be harmful to others.
So-called religious people have done great deal of harm.
I know, sir. Therefore, I am saying we are not traditionalists.
Yeah, so I'm asking
We
you,
are
sir.
not going in terms of.
No, you haven't answered my question, sir. Are we discussing this theoretically or examining?
Sir, it is out of a deep anguish
And no,
when
no,
we see
no.
that man's knowledge is becoming an instrument of his own ravage. Then you go to a religious life to say, is there a way out of it?
I can't say that for myself. I mean, I would say that what has led me to even inquire has been sorrow, loneliness, inadequacy. These are three things which have led me to inquire. I don't even know the nature of the religious life.
I think we're not investigating, we are making statements. Forgive me if I point that out, sir, but we are saying that we mustn't hurt another human being.
No, sir, I say that the proliferation of knowledge, instead of giving us a capacity to grasp human well-being in its totality, does not help us to understand how this knowledge can be a blessing to man and it is becoming a curse.
Yes, sir. But
Seeing this, we say, is it possible for knowledge not to be a source of destruction? And I say that what can give it perhaps is the religious.
No, Achuji, before you can come to this question, what do you do with the nature of the self which is so inadequate that it cannot even pose this question? It cannot pose a question about humanity.
I'm out. I'm completely out because I feel that a man like me who is witness to appalling cruelties, appalling threats to human well-being arising out of human knowledge, there is no self here at all. I am not bothered about the self. I am bothered about the situation of which I am an integral part. I can't separate myself from it. I am part of this.
Is it only human knowledge that creates this appalling condition, or is it also human ignorance? So can't they balance out? I don't think one should place undue emphasis on knowledge and not say that also human ignorance is called into
See,
question.
human ignorance, human knowledge are all seem to be far away from us.
No, I say through the religious life, as I have posed this question, we may come upon the discovery of a self which is not mere bloated egotism under the form of religious garbs.
Sir, may I raise this question, perhaps in a slightly different form, because I find this for myself a little too abstract. Because whatever we might mean by religious life, here I sit, I wish to be religious now. And I also wish to be in contact with some knowledge, or at least not to be destroyed by it, not to be destructive with it. So the problem is here. At least this is one way I would like to raise this, because the question of general human knowledge is too abstract. Now, how can I be religious now and still have a sense that what I do, for example, as a physicist, there is a certain set of laws, certain operations that I teach or go through or perform, and I see that some of these relationships in terms of energy or time, whatever we talk about in physics, don't necessarily relate to my sense of time and energy or momentum as I experience it inwardly. And one way it seems to me I understand religious life, perhaps it is just a label, that there is a balancing of what I see is the external time or energy, and what I see its flow inwardly, time and energy moving. When I can, in the rare moments that I can see them related with each other, that seems to me, at least at that moment, I am in touch with a religious life. Now, question that arises out of this for me, that when I can occasionally see this, then how is one still to continue what appears to me ordinary activities of teaching physics or doing physics.
So are you saying, is a religious life compatible with ordinary daily living?
Yes.
That's the point. Is that it, sir?
Yes, that is, yes, I would say this is the problem.
So I'm a bit at a loss because we have said so many things. I would like, first of all, to find out what you mean by a religious life. Achuji has pointed out not to hurt a human being. And also he has pointed out that it's a life holistic, if you can use that word, that is a life that is complete, whole, and not fragmented. And you also said that knowledge, misuse as it is now, is destroying humanity. And knowledge also prevents or becomes a distraction to a religious life. But we haven't yet gone into the question of what you mean by a religious life.
Krishnji, isn't there something wrong with even the whole idea of a religious life? It strikes me as just,
Yes.
I don't feel so good, and if I take
quite
a
agree.
proper drug, I'm going to be religious.
So-
It's traditional bull.
Yes, sir. That's why I'm a little bit objecting to the word religious life.
Yes, it's just,
I would like to go into this little more. That is, Achuji has pointed out that man wants happiness, generally. Happiness at what level? Physical level, that is having all the comfortable things, all the rest of that, and at psychological level, so that he has no problems, no conflicts and so on. And at a more higher level, if you can call it, a sense of absolute relaxed sense of peace. Would you call that a religious life? That's what we want. That's what every human being craves for, because he knows what knowledge has done in the world. I'm just explaining, sir. I mean, you can see what they're doing in Iran, what they're doing in Russia, what they're doing all over the place. And then questioning what place has knowledge in our human existence, in our human daily life. Let's for the moment forget religious life, if you don't mind. Let's find out if it is possible to live a life, a daily life here on this earth, which is our earth, not yours or mine, it's our earth. Can we live here with extraordinary sense of freedom from all problems and never come to you? Could we start from there? What would you say?
My only query would be, sir, is it valid for there to be a movement towards, once you posit this,
What?
once you posit this,
Posit?
what you have said,
I'm not positing anything. I'm inquiring.
no, I'm just saying, is it valid for there to be any movement towards? To me, the movement towards is a denial, I would say, of the religious life. Let me put it this way.
I will put it this way, that I, who am in contradiction, who's constantly moving between this and that, I want to end conflict So it's a very valid thing which I am seeking. When you say a movement from there to that is an invalid movement, I stop first of all by asking the question, can I end this whole turmoil, this contradiction,
I am,
conflict?
I am
think
not,
that's a very valid question.
I am not moving from here to there.
That's why I wanted to make
No,
it clear.
I am only here.
Now that's what I want to make it clear.
I am not moving.
There is no movement towards. I
Well,
only
there
want
is,
Sir,
but
can- sir.
Krishnaji, you are moving in a sense that you're saying, can we live in peace?
No,
Can we live with
No.
freedom? That impossible?
no. All that I am saying, this is my life,
Okay, finish.
right? No.
No, it's not finished, David. I will say, a person who says, this is my life, this is not the way I want to live, he or she naturally asks the question, isn't there something different? That movement,
don't
that very
even ask
question.
I don't even ask that. Is
Why
there
not?
some? I don't even ask if there is something different. I live in conflict. Now just make sure. I live in conflict. I live in misery. I live in confusion. This constant battle going on inside, outside. It's terrible to live that way. And I say, please help me to live without this.
Sir, when you say you don't ask the question, it is not true of most people. Most people seeing that ask the question, is there anything different?
No,
Don't
that-
deny the validity of that question.
The validity lies in their escape from this.
Before they escape, the movement is there in human
No,
beings.
I am because the movement away from the fact is an escape.
So that is the insight which man has to have. But before he has that insight, both are facts. One
I am facing facts. The facts are my life is a dreadful mess. That's all. That's a fact.
But sir, the fact also is that I wish to change it. That is also a fact.
That is, first I must acknowledge the fact,
Yeah.
right? To change it may be an escape from the fact.
Well, isn't your statement, my life is a dreadful mess? Look at the value judgments that you've made in those
No,
words.
I am not no value judgment. It is a fact.
there is no
I get up at 6 o'clock, go to the office for the rest of the night, 10 hours a day, and come back. You follow all the insecurity, the mess, the terrible things that are happening around me. That's not a value judgment, it's a fact.
Okay, go ahead. There is I do think that
No,
there is there's a kind of judgment in there. Look, look at the way you said it. You said it's a terrible mess.
It is a terrible mess.
But that's a value judgment. And
No.
I don't want to sit in a mess.
It is not a value judgment. It is a fact which I have observed in my life, which is there is constant struggle, fear, all the rest of it. That's a fact, which I call a mess. Doesn't matter. Leave that word.
So my question is, that is a fact. Now, the query about the religious life, what relationship has that to these
I'll
facts?
tell you, as I see it. Religious life is not only asked by me today, it is in the very tradition of human experience. There have been people who have talked about religious life, and I see a person whom I think is leading a religious life, and I cannot take it away from my consciousness. So I seem to feel that there
That may be your tradition. That may be your wish, illusion in which you have living, because it's tradition.
not only tradition, someone else is talking about a state.
I've talked a great deal about it.
I hear it and I say there seems to be a different state. But we
I
know
want-
nothing about it.
I want to begin, Sunandaji, I want to begin with where I am and not jump into something which I don't know.
No, sir, when you
But sir,
say
there is an actual position of a man who is in contradiction, recognizes his contradiction as a fact, says, I want to change it, but I don't know what to change into.
The changing into is a movement away from the
He
fact.
says, I don't know what to change into, but he wants to change it.
Now wait a minute, let's discuss that.
Right.
Let's let us discuss that, sir. I find I am in a conflict with my wife or husband, whatever it is, and I have to understand the nature of that conflict, not change it into something else. Right? Now, how do I change this fact that I cannot get on with my wife? Right?
Sir.
Because to me, a religious life is a life in which all these problems have completely ceased.
You've got an assumption then.
Oh no. This is not an assumption, it's a fact to me.
For you. Okay, that's-
I mean, I'm saying that. It's not a fact to you, it's a fact to me. So I say, don't let us jump into what is religious life, what is not. Here I am as a human being, caught up in this turmoil, in this trap, if you like to use that word, or in this rat race, and I say to myself, how am I to change this? Not into something else, because I am fairly intelligent enough to see changing into something else is an avoidance of what is. Right? So I say now, how am I to change that fact? Right? Is that what we are discussing?
Well, I think, Krishnaji, at that point, perhaps we should stop, because the big thing is the subtlety of that question, which is, how do I change that without trying to change it into this religious life?
I'm not talking of religious life.
That's what I say, but that's where the subtle jump is.
No.
Because the mind or the brain immediately goes to, how do I change it into something better?
I'm not changing into something better, because to me the better is the enemy of the good.
Okay, but you're dodging. There's a subtle point there.
No.
Right there it happens.
Sir, I see very clearly, not as something vague or that logically, rationally, I see the movement away from the fact does not bring about the understanding of the fact. That's all my point.
But sir, if I see my conflict, and I have also heard J. Krishnamurti say there is a state of no conflict. Now that is my situation. I have heard that also. Perhaps that was my trouble that I heard. But now...
I know, but he's always said, face the fact, don't move away from the fact.
Yes.
I know.
Now, please don't move away from the fact. My fact is that I have this conflict, and I have also heard JK. Now, which makes me think that there is another way of living my life.
Of course.
You see, sir, to take the statement without making it a contradiction, without making a movement from here to there, how do you listen?
I'm going to show it to you.
No, but I would
Go on, I'm not the chairman.
of course, what
I retire.
you say, of course. What is that of course?
You see, David, how subtle it is?
I don't quite
You
follow.
said, of course. Then,
Well,
the
of course.
question put to you that there is another way of living.
I said, of course.
You said, of course. What does that of course convey to?
That there is another way of living.
The approximation.
No. No, but you are missing the point. The other way of, the man says very clearly, the other way cannot be found or come upon or reached or moved into unless you have faced the fact and resolved the fact.
But
one true state is that statement, of course, has been received by this mind as an idea.
Yes, as an idea, therefore valueless.
I didn't hear you. What you just said?
Huh?
It's an idea.
No, value.
As long as it is an idea, it's valueless.
Yes, it is so, but it is.
That's your fault. He says it's valueless.
That's
What, sir? The idea is valueless, but my feeling that I am in conflict, that is not valueless.
Of course not.
No. No, Sajja, let's be clear. The fact is, I am afraid. Let's take that, doesn't matter what it is. The fact, there's this feeling arising, identified by a name and so all the rest of it. I don't face the fact, but I have created an idea about the fact and act according to that idea. Obviously, you can see it. So, I said, don't do that. Look at the fact without and making it into an abstraction. Stay with the fact. Don't move away under any circumstances. That's what he says.
Sir, there is one thing. Not to move away from this is all right. But that idea, I don't act from that idea.
What?
I don't act from that idea.
Why do no.
I don't act, but that idea is there.
Why?
Because what is it? The consciousness has heard.
No. The idea is there because you are conditioned to make an abstraction of the fact.
You mean the very reception of anything is.
Yep.
But sir, when I hear you, for me, it is an idea. What you
Because
say.
that means why do you see that's the difference. Now
Yes.
listen,
Yes.
I hear a statement, I don't make an idea. I hear it.
That's the difference. But,
No,
I have to live with
no.
myself, not with JK.
No. Our conditioning is hearing a statement and making that statement into an idea. That's our condition. The very word idea, if I can go into word, means to observe, from Greek and so on, which is, idea is not what we have made of it now, but originally it meant to observe. Right? That's what doesn't matter. You make a statement to me. I hear it, and from that make a conclusion or an idea, right? And I said, don't do that, but just listen to what is being said. Don't, out of it, create an abstraction, which is an illusion, which has nothing to do with what is being said. Listen to what is being said.
So were you also in that suggesting that if one is in conflict or suffering, that part of that is that we've made an idea of it. We contribute further suffering to ourselves by creating an idea, I am suffering.
Yes. Now, when there is suffering, is that suffering an idea? Go on, so tell me.
No, it's not.
Wait, no, I won't easily accept that.
The basis is suffering as such, not as an idea, not as an abstraction. The suffering is real.
No, I want to go into a little bit more carefully than say real or not real. Now, when there is suffering, is that suffering a concept? Just a minute, sir. Listen to it first before you jump on me. Just listen. Is it a concept, an idea, a remembrance, or is it an actual moment of suffering? Which is it?
Isn't there a moment of suffering, an instant of suffering?
No, I'm not, please, I'm just asking that question. Please, just find out what one has to say. At the moment of sorrow, there is nothing else, right? There is nothing else. Why is it possible? I'm just asking, I'm not saying inquiring into it. Is it possible to remain with that moment without making an abstraction of it and saying, I'm suffering?
Isn't that what happens in the next moment? There is suffering, and then the mind carries
No, you are missing my point. You are missing my, forgive me, ladies, to jump in. I am saying at the moment of suffering, there is no other factor. Other factor arises when that suffering is made into an abstraction as an idea, and I am suffering.
So would you say then that that is the continuation of suffering?
Which,
The moment it moves into the abstraction,
it is not suffering.
it's
It's not suffering, it's just an idea of suffering.
where we go.
No, I'm very clear.
Sir, if we may compare this suffering with pain, there is an impulse of pain, followed by another impulse of pain, followed by a third impulse of pain, followed by etc. Now, therefore, that pain is maybe intermittent, but it is repetitive, and therefore it can never become an idea.
No.
It's a physical pain, and
No, look.
seeing this only as an incident.
There is physical suffering, we must be clear again.
I am just saying that I give this to make it more down to earth, factual. I say that when factually there is pain, pain is a series of sensations. It goes on repeating, and that creates...
No, the repetition is the memory of that which has happened.
No, sir, it is the pain. It is,
No, sir,
Sir,
no.
the simple fact is that when there is pain, and we know that the nerves are constantly repeating that sensation. Is
Achiji,
it not so?
Achiji, you have physical pain.
Pain.
Now, go into it a little bit slowly. You have physical pain.
The nature of the
No, wait, the physical pain, you have two things. And you do something about it. Stop it. But it recurs, comes back. So ultimately, you go to the dentist and pull it out, something or other takes place. Now, the continuation of pain is the registration of a first pain in the mind, in the brain, and that pain is repeated. Actually, there is pain. That's simple enough, isn't it?
No, sir, when you say that there is pain, there is registration of that pain, that's a fact. But the-
Wait. Slow. Don't, registration of that pain is a fact,
It's a
you
fact.
say. Why does that registration take place?
I'm talking of physical pain at the moment.
I'm talking of physical pain.
Sir, I have pain. There is pain in the knee. It has registered itself. It comes again after a day. It comes after 24 hours. So, there may be a time interval between the first pain and the second pain, but every time it occurs, it is pain.
Yes. So what do you...
So you are saying
No,
it's an
no,
abstraction.
no,
It
you're
is not
missing-
an abstraction.
You're missing my point. Is the... Huh?
I say you're not saying that.
What?
You're not saying that.
Psychologically, he will say it's an abstraction.
But registration of the physical pain,
David Allen
Is a neurological.
and it does help, and the brain uses that registration to avoid further physical pain.
Of course.
But
So it registers, it must register.
We are not denying the fact of physical pain and it's
I'm
No, but even there he is raised-
comparing physical pain to suffering. Because
No,
physical
wait,
pain
wait.
also by registration becomes psychological, isn't it?
it can become psychological.
The moment you have registered it, it has become psychological.
Yeah, but the physical pain as such is of a very different nature. It's different psychological pain. Psychological pain seems to be the shadow of the human being. It seems to be a shadow of the man. It doesn't arise because of any one particular reason. It may be, it shows itself with many faces.
This will become very metaphysical.
No, it shows itself. One day I am depressed, one day I am alone, one day someone is ill, one day I feel inadequate. These are all manifestations of that inner deep inadequacy which is pain, which is psychological pain. I'm not metaphysical, this is very factual. And the point is, Krishnaji seems to posit that at the very instant when pain arises, there is action which cuts through the cord of continuity. That which connects this pain or suffering to the next. And at the instant of its arising, he implies there's a cutting of the cord. Now, I would like to go into the nature of this cutting.
Of?
This cutting.
And can we say that the cutting is between the actual pain and the jump to an abstraction?
That's right.
It's in between.
It's
Is that what you are
instant-
saying? I don't know.
I say, sir, that you seem to imply that the instant of the arising of psychological suffering, at that very instant there is a cutting so that the continuity ends.
No, there is no cutting.
Then,
There is no cutting.
please, just
Is cutting the wrong
Word.
remove the word, but
No,
please tell
no.
us how.
The implication is in her statement an action of denial, an action, an action, I want all right, an action of
An action.
moving away.
No. An action.
What?
An action.
No,
Don't put in moving away.
no,
Don't
no action.
I feel
Now
Krishna
let
is saying, why do you act at all?
Now, I would like to go into this.
I think this is fairly simple.
I won't leave this.
Are we discussing physical pain or psychological pain?
Psychological.
Huh?
We started out talking about physical
But
pain.
now we are talking of
But
psychological
using
pain.
that as a simile for
No, we are talking of psychological pain.
I sat in a dentist chair for 4 hours, drilling all the rest of it. When I got out of that chair, there is no registration of that drilling.
Why, you remember it now, how can you say?
No, don't jump on me that way.
That I can
Wait, just let me finish. I told this to Mariaji, Mrs. Zibelis, and I said, look, there is no remembrance actually of that 4 hours. Psychologically, suffering is an actual fact It takes place at the moment, arising of whatever it is. We won't go into that for a moment. And apparently, we don't seem to be able to say nothing else but that. And that suffering, because you are not moving away from it all, there is no registration of it.
This is what I want.
First let me, I made a statement. Have you listened to this statement?
Yes.
That is, when there is no movement away from the second of that thing called suffering, there is actually no registration, remembrance. Now fight it out.
So do you mean there is no registration psychologically?
I'm told, I explained physically, and I've gone into psychological pain. When I say, can the mind, can the brain remain absolutely with that feeling of suffering and nothing else?
May I say something, sir?
No, I'm not the chairman.
At this moment, I have no quality of suffering in my mind. When you ask this question, it has no reality to me. The mind is operating, but it hasn't captured the quality of suffering at this point. I don't know whether I'm coming.
That is valid, but
You're all off something else.
No,
But
no,
I
sir.
would- I would
You
like
are
to-
asking a question. Can the mind remain at the moment arising of suffering?
Yeah, at the moment you're not.
Now, at this moment, how do I receive that statement?
I'll tell you. At this moment, humanity is suffering. It's not an idea. It's an actual fact that all human beings are suffering. It's not I am suffering, I remember it, now I'm not suffering. Is this a joke?
No, sir.
But sir, are you suggesting that this fact does not register for you because you're not running away from this fact?
I am saying, sir, the second of suffering has no registration. It's only when thought takes it up and moves away from that second.
Sir, will you elaborate the statement, at this moment all humanity is suffering? How are you relating it to the mind? What is that state? I'm not able to get the feel of it.
I am not suffering now,
No.
nor are you. We are sitting comfortably or uncomfortably in this light. We are not suffering, but there is suffering around you, immense suffering. Are you in contact with that? Or is it an idea that human beings suffer?
There is no context.
What?
See,
What?
there is no-
It's an idea, sir.
There is no contact.
It's an idea that humanity is suffering.
So, which means what? Continue with that, explore that. It's an idea that human beings are suffering. What does that mean? Idea is not factual. Then why do you have it?
What is the nature of this contact, sir?
What?
What is the nature of this contact?
What
What is the nature of this contact?
How are you in contact with that? Or how
You
are
are
we-
not. You are not in contact with it. It's there.
It is so.
You see how we twist? I want contact with it.
There is no contact.
There is no contact when you say I want to, but it is there.
Sir, what is there? The suffering, humanity, or the contact is there? I'm sorry, I missed the word there.
So let's begin differently. Do you feel, sir, that you are the rest of mankind? A global mankind, not from India, Punjab, this feeling that you are the whole of mankind. Oh,
Sometimes.
it's nice that I'm not talking of sometimes, sir. It's like the curate's egg. You know that story of the curate's egg? Oh, it doesn't matter, leave that. What are we talking about?
Sir, that is what triggered the question.
Huh?
This is the point from which the question was triggered about the religious life. I said that this suffering, this deep anguish is a fact. And out of this comes the exploration into what is the religious life.
Well, one thing, Krishnaji, it seems to me we sort of got off, or we detoured, where we were talking about the fact that there is the actual suffering, and there is actual suffering. And at that moment you suggested the fact, well, there is a life that there is no suffering in. And
I didn't say that.
Well, you said where there's no...
No,
I did not say that.
No, but I would like to go back to this. Krishnaji said, there is suffering. You may say that there is no suffering at this moment, but there is something at the moment. There's something you can put in place of suffering. It makes no difference. He says, can there be no movement away from there? The movement being registration.
The movement is the registration,
The
not...
movement is the registration. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But I want to raise another question, which is that to what degree is the very act of being in that condition, in other words, that condition that we experience as suffering or conflict, that there's something about that very state in which there's already somehow or other a implication of movement in it. I don't know if, for instance, if someone is suffering because they've lost someone who's important to them, then they're already involved in a movement from a memory to an absence. So they're already caught in a movement.
No, that's why.
And your suggestion to Dr. Ravindra that, look, for me, it's an actual fact there's a condition where there's no conflict, and you said, well, no, look at that as a fact. Don't get, it's like a drug pusher on the street.
I'm saying, sir, we all, human beings, suffer. That's a fact. And in investigating the whole thing, or rather not investigating, having an insight into it, which is not investigation, you see that suffering continues when it is registered. That's a fact. Now, I'm asking, I'm investigating, I'm not saying, is it possible not to register? Which gives a continuity, a memory, and all the rest of it. Then the whole problem arises. How am I to escape from suffering and all the rest of it? I'm asking, investigating, if there is it possible for this non-registration taking place?
And my statement is, I'm not arguing with you, but what I'm saying is that the act of suffering, to me, seems to be already an act of registering. In other words, it's already a function of registering.
That's our conditioning.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying that's our conditioning.
Yes.
And if I am not aware of this conditioning, I keep on repeating the pattern. But the moment I become aware of my conditioning, that's what I am doing, aware in the sense, see what is actually taking place, then I can move. No, then the very perception of that ends it. That's the point.
That's the paradox.
No, not paradox. That is a fact.
No, sir, I would like to take up 2 or 3 things you have said. You have said when there is an insight into
The movement.
suffering, in the movement of suffering.
You understand what I mean by insight? You must be clear on this.
Then the question arises, can there be a total non-movement away from it? Now,
Yes.
is this what is the nature of this insight?
Now, first of all, you must understand what is insight.
That is, what is the nature of this insight?
Yes,
Because
The poor chap tried to explain it for 2 talks there.
yeah, no, but listen, sir, I would like to let us negate what it is not.
Huh?
Let us negate what it is not. It obviously is not of the nature of thought.
No.
You would put aside, so that there is no movement. As
Go
thought.
on, step by step. It's not a movement of thought. It's not the movement of memory. It's not the movement of remembrance. Which means what? No prejudice, complete freedom from the known. That's what he means.
First of all, it arises. First of all, I will ask you, how does this freedom from the known arise, which is insight? You see,
I don't follow this.
how does this freedom from the known take birth in consciousness? In consciousness, outside consciousness.
No.
How does it?
Consciousness already implies the known.
So I say in conscious, outside consciousness, wherever you like to place it. How is it born? This which
Because
has no past, no future, no present.
No, I'm not. Freedom from the known can only take place when one has observed the whole phenomena of working in the field of the known. That's all I'm saying. Then, in the very investigation of the known, out of that comes the freedom from the known. It's not the other way around. So, what are we talking there?
The nature of this insight.
I'm doing it. I say nature of this insight is freedom from the known first, which implies no remembrance of the past, which is not an amnesia, which is not a state of emptiness, all the rest of it. It is complete, total attention in which there is no memory operating, no experience operating, no ideals, none of that exists, which is the freedom from the known. Don't accept what I'm saying, it has no value. Quite right, it has no value. But when you hear it, aren't you interested to find out?
Well, actually, the movement that I come upon when you say that is not so much interest in finding that out, though that's sort of at the fringe, but I immediately come upon the sense of a tangle in this movement of the known. In other words, the movement of the registration, the movement of, let's say, of memory.
Make it very simple. You call me a fool, which is immediately registered. And from that arises hurt and all the rest of it. Now, why should I register it?
Well, you will register if you're attached to
That-
wanting me to think something differently of you.
That is, I have an image about myself that I am not a bloody fool. And you come along and says, you follow, and insult me, and that's immediately registered. If I have no image, you can call me anything you like.
Well, but it's longer than that. It's longer than that in the sense that if I call you a fool, it's not likely that I'm going to want to be with you in the next couple hours.
No.
Therefore, you're going to be alone without me. And
Yes,
you need
but
me to
when I
be
meet you next time, the full remembrance remains.
Right.
I meet you.
But sir, that example, one may be free of images about oneself as a fool, but we were talking about a pain, a sorrow was the word you used. But let's call it a pain, not physical, but a blow comes.
A shock,
Yes.
a psychological shock.
Psychological shock. Now, am I correct in understanding that the registration of that is the pain? There is the impact of the shock, but what makes it pain as we experience it
Is the continuation of the remembrance of that
is
shock.
the fact of the registration.
That's right,
and
that's right, that's right.
So that if, what you suggested was that if one remains with the blow, the pain, whatever it is, without the vibration into
That's
the
right,
registration,
that's right.
that something else is happening, and would you call this the action of insight or something else?
Huh?
What is it
Huh?
that cuts
Huh?
the cord?
Yes.
What is
Is
it that cuts
Huh?
this continuity?
You
What?
talked about
What?
insight, and you also talked about remaining with the pain, the blow, not moving to registration. And all the rest.
Would you consider a quiet pond, mill pond, and a drop
hear
it,
you.
huh?
What? I didn't hear you.
A mill pond,
Oh.
quiet, it's absolutely quiet. And you drop a stone into it, there are the waves. But when the waves are over, it's completely normal again. The normality is the non-registration. Because it's back to its original condition.
But you can't say that normality is the non-registration because there's no stimulus at that point. The normality is the quiet. But when why wouldn't you call the normality the waves?
No, I purposely use the word mill pond. That's his natural state. Quiet.
Quiet.
You drop in something into it, there are waves.
That's natural too.
No, but it is an outside action.
So is the blow, the pain.
So just take it, I don't run the simile today, but take the fact you have a shock for various reasons. Can the mind remain with that shock? Not the waves, setting the waves going, which is the registration. Remain with the shock. Would there be any registration? Would you even call it a shock?
Normally what happens is there is a shock, and the observation of the shock is in the nature of duality. I am observing, and there is somehow there is something wrong in the process of observation there.
I have a shock. For the moment I'm paralyzed. I can't move. My son is dead, that's a tremendous shock. And a day or later begins the whole movement of saying, I have suffered, I have lost, I am lonely, and that movement takes place. I am suggesting to remain entirely with that thing before the waves come in.
You mean to say after that, if that is understood, there won't be loneliness?
No, don't bring in.
I see suffering in all those forms.
I'm only taking for either you look at suffering, which is holistic, which includes everything, or you break it up as suffering, fear, pain, pleasure, sorrow, anxiety, and break it up. That's why I'm suggesting that a religious life, quotes, is a life which is holistic. Not the scientific holistic, but in which there has been total insight into the whole structure and nature of consciousness and the very ending of that. Bananas. Have we answered this question? Not at all.
You started probing.
Huh?
We have started probing into the question.
So,
We have started probing into the question.
where are we now after probing? Well, no, after probing, I must come to something.
I can remain with the nature of probing.
Ah,
If I do not know the mill pond, I can only remain with probing.
which means I have probed into the whole nature of knowledge and placed it, put it in its right place, and therefore it's no longer interfering with my perception, which you began. Right? You say knowledge is creating havoc in the world, destroying humanity and so on, all the rest of it. And without having or living a religious life, knowledge will inevitably destroy humanity. That's what you stated. And we discussed the nature of knowledge and how this knowledge is praised by the scientists, Bronowski and others, that only man can ascend through knowledge. And we are saying that very ascent of knowledge is the destruction of man. And to prevent that destruction of man, knowledge must be put in its right place, and in the very placing of it is the beginning of a religious life. That's what our investigation so far come to.
Yeah, 10 to 11.
10 to 11. I think we better stop, don't you?
Yes. Continue tomorrow.
Do we meet tomorrow?
Yes.
Woe is me. So this brings up a very interesting question. Is the nature of the mind and the brain a constant movement?
That's what I was going to raise with you when you brought in the issue of the...
We'll discuss it tomorrow.
Yes.
The two things I wanted
Yeah,
to
but
take
I
up,
mean-
this one thing about whether the mind is a constant movement, and the other a statement which you have made, that when there is attention right through,
Huh?
when there is attention right through,
Inside, right?
that there is a physical transformation which takes place.
Of the brain, yes.
the brain.
I'll stick to that.
Also, so you said, my son dies, and you spoke of remaining with that fact maybe till the next day. The
Yes,
value.
I mean, remain with the facts, only without any movement. For a day, week.
When you bring time into
I
it
did.
like that, what does it mean to remain?